My fiancé said, "Apologize to him or we are done." I replied, "A signal is either safe or not," and I pulled the access log, read message preview, and saved the bank PDF, then rekeyed the duplex and boxed her things. But a work form slipped out with Bram's name and both names were on one line. Have you ever seen a relationship end in the same moment you realize you were never the main person in it? For me, it started with a tiny line in an access log, a clean little timeline that did not care about excuses. It just showed who opened a door and when. My name is Cyan Marrow. I was 40 when this happened. I fix railroad signals for a regional rail line in the Hudson Valley. I crawl into signal huts, test relays, and make sure the lights tell the truth. Saskia Renner and I were engaged. We lived in my duplex in Highland, New York, with a pine cleaner smell that never fully left the floors. A chipped yellow kettle whistled every morning, and her rosemary hand lotion sat by the couch like it belonged there. We had a routine, or at least I thought we did. Saskia was 38. She worked as a grant compliance officer for a community health nonprofit. Her job was all rules and clean paperwork, and she took pride in being the person who caught mistakes early. That mattered later in ways I did not expect. Then there was Bram Kosuk. Saskia called him her best friend and said I had to get used to it. Bram ran wilderness first aid trainings and weekend climbing courses. He was always sunburned, always loud, always acting like the room belonged to him. At first I tried. I told myself friends are good and trust is better, but Bram did not act like a friend who respects a home. He acted like a person testing a boundary to see if it breaks. The weekend trip was the spark. Saskia said she and Bram were going up to a lodge in the Catskills for a reset. She said it was work stress and fresh air, nothing more. I asked why it had to be just the two of them. That was confrontation one. I said, "Why are you going away together like that?" She looked down at her mug and said, "You made him uncomfortable by asking." Then she gave me the rule like a threat. Either apologize to him or we are done. I remember staring at the steam rising from my coffee. My chest felt tight, but my voice stayed flat. I said, "You're right." She nodded like she won. Here is practical advice number 1. If someone makes a demand that ends with "or else," treat it like a real deadline. Do not assume it is just talk. Plan your next move like it matters, because it does. Saskia left for the trip that same afternoon. She kissed my cheek fast, like checking a box. Her overnight bag smelled like her shampoo and something sharp, like eucalyptus. When the door closed, the house felt too quiet. At work the next morning, I was in a signal hut near Poughkeepsie. The air inside smelled like warm dust and metal, and the relays clicked like nervous teeth. I did a signal check on a stubborn circuit and watched the green light finally hold steady. That should have been my reminder to do a signal check on my own life too. Around noon, I opened our shared travel account on the old desktop in my office. We used it to book trains and rentals, and I had the login because I paid most of the trips. Saskia had booked a cabin through it for our anniversary once, and now there was a new reservation sitting there. The cabin listing had a Smart Entry tab. I clicked it, and the access log loaded like a confession. Guest code created for Bram Kosuk. Unlocked Friday 1041 p.m. Unlocked again Saturday 217 a.m. That was the first proof, and it was location. Not a rumor, not a feeling, not a guess. A door opened at 2:17 in the morning by the man I was told to apologize to. My hands went cold around my coffee cup. I did not call Saskia. I did not call Bram. I sat there and listened to the relays click, and I let the facts settle. Sometimes the quiet is the loudest part. When I got home that night, I walked through the duplex and noticed details like a stranger would. Her slippers by the sofa. A half-used candle that smelled like cinnamon and smoke. A small climbing carabiner on the key hook that was not mine. I told myself I needed one more piece. Not because I wanted pain. Because my job taught me that one sign can be a glitch, but a pattern is a failure. I needed the pattern. On Sunday, Saskia texted me a photo of trees and said, "Bram says you should chill." I stared at that line for a long time. Then I replied, "We will talk when you get back." Even typing, it felt like I was stepping away from a ledge. They came back Monday evening. Saskia walked in first, cheeks pink from cold air, acting like nothing happened. Bram followed with a cooler like he owned the place. He gave me a smile that did not reach his eyes. Saskia said, "Are you ready to apologize?" Bram leaned on my counter and said, "It was weird, man. You pressed us." I asked, "Why did your code unlock a cabin door at 2:17 in the morning?" Saskia's face went still. "That was confrontation too," I pushed. "You told me it was just fresh air. Why is there a guest code in our travel account?" She went quiet for a beat, then her voice sharpened. "Stop spying. You always do this controlling thing." Bram made a sad face like he was the victim, and Saskia pointed at me like I was the problem. She added, "Your questions triggered him. He has stuff from the past." I kept my tone even. I asked about a weekend trip with your male best friend. Saskia's guilt flashed for half a second, then it turned into anger. She said, "Apologize or we are done, Cyan, right now." I nodded once. I said, "Okay." And I watched Bram relax like he won. That was the moment I chose to end it, even if my heart did not like it. I went into the bedroom and closed the door. My hands shook, so I put them flat on the dresser until the shaking slowed. Then I opened my laptop and started a list of what was mine and what was hers. A clean list is a kind of peace. Here is practical advice number 2. When a boundary is crossed, write down what happened while it is fresh. Use plain words and dates. Memory fades, but notes hold. Saskia and Bram left the house a little later. She said she needed space, and he said he would support her. Their footsteps on the porch sounded like people leaving a store, not a home. I sat on the couch and listened to the kettle click as it cooled. The next morning, an envelope arrived in the mail from Saskia's nonprofit. It was addressed to her, but it came to my home because she had used it for work mail before. I did not open it. I set it on the table and waited. Later that day, Saskia came by to grab her work bag. She rushed in, eyes red, and avoided looking at me. She snatched the envelope off the table and jammed it into her tote. As she did, a folded paper slipped out and landed near my boots. It was a form, and it had Bram's name on it too. Not a love letter, not something dramatic. A signed document for a weekend partner skills course, the kind used for guided climbs. 2 names on one line, Saskia Renner and Bram Kosuk, both signatures fresh. That was the killer receipt, and it hit harder than I expected, because it showed intent. Not just friends hiking, not just stress relief. They signed up as a pair and made it official. I took a photo of the form and slid it back where it fell. I did not want a fight in my living room. I wanted the truth to stay safe until I used it the right way. I did another signal check at work that night, and my mind felt like it was doing the same thing. Now I needed the communication proof. On Wednesday, Saskia left her tablet on my kitchen counter when she ran out to her car. The screen lit up with a message preview, and it showed Bram's name. I was not digging through private things. It was right there, glowing. The message said, "He's still acting up." Saskia typed back, "I gave him the choice. He will apologize or he will lose me." Then Bram replied, "Good, if he respects you, he respects me." That was communication proof, clear words, clear pressure, and it showed me the real order in our relationship. I was not her partner, I was her obstacle. On Thursday morning, I got the money proof. Our joint utility account was linked to my banking app, and Saskia had access because she paid some bills. A PDF statement popped up because the bank sent a monthly summary. And there it was, plain as daylight. 2 charges from the same weekend. One for the cabin deposit. Another for gear rental and lift passes for 2 people. The account was not just used, it was used for them. Location, then communication, then money. 3 receipts stacked like heavy stones. And now the choice was simple, even if it hurt. A system that fails 3 checks does not get to keep running. That night, I called an older attorney named Ione Caswell. A coworker gave me her number and said she was calm in storms. I met her late at a 24-hour automotive parts store in Kingston. The place smelled like rubber and cheap coffee, and the fluorescent lights made everyone look tired. Ione listened without flinching. She said, "Do not lock her out of her property without a plan." Then she added, "But you can end the relationship, secure your home, and set a pickup time in writing." Her voice never rose. She just spoke like facts were sturdy. Ione gave me a short script. "One message," she said. "No arguing." "Tell her the relationship is over," she continued. "Tell her when she can get her things. Keep it clean." I nodded, and for the first time in days, my breathing felt normal. Friday was the deadline that made everything tight. Our wedding venue wanted the final deposit by Monday. Saskia had been pushing it, talking about seating charts and colors like nothing was wrong. I refused to pour money into a future that was already cracked, so I did what she demanded. I apologized, not with words but with action. While Saskia was at Bram's place talking, I packed her things. I did not trash anything. I folded, boxed, labeled, and photographed each box. Her coat smelled like rosemary and cold air. Then I went to a locksmith in New Paltz and paid for a full rekey, new keys, new deadbolts. I also changed the garage code and removed her guest access from the smart entry system. If the home is mine and the relationship is over, the door needs to match the truth. I left one note on the kitchen table. I kept it short because long notes become arguments. "You told me to apologize to him or we are done," I wrote. I chose done. Then I wrote the line that mattered: "You never have to defend me again." I also sent Saskia one email. It had a pickup window for Sunday afternoon and Ione's name as my contact if she wanted to argue. No insults, no threats, just a clean exit. On Sunday, Saskia arrived with Bram. He stood behind her like a bodyguard, trying to look brave. Saskia saw the new locks and her face broke. She tried the knob twice like it would change its mind. She called me from the porch. Her voice shook. "Cyan, open the door." I stayed inside but spoke through the closed door. "Your boxes are in the garage. The code is in the email." Bram muttered something, and I heard him kick the step lightly like a kid. Saskia started crying, not quiet tears, loud ones. She said, "You can't do this to me. You're being cruel." I said, "Cruel was making me apologize for asking basic questions." 2 days later, she asked for a formal meeting. Ione suggested a community mediation room in Saugerties so no one could claim drama. Gray carpet, water cups, a wall clock that ticked like it enjoyed tension. Saskia sat across from me with her hands clenched in her lap. This was confrontation 3, and it happened after proof. Saskia started with denial. "Nothing happened on that trip." I slid the access log printout across the table. She stared at it and blinked hard. Then she minimized. "It was a cabin. People go in and out." "You're making it dark." I placed the screenshots of her messages to Bram beside it. Her mouth opened, then shut. Her shoulders dropped like the air left her. Then she partially admitted. "Okay," she said, voice small. I leaned on him. "I shouldn't have made you apologize." She rubbed her forehead like it hurt. "But Bram needed me," she added. "You don't get how much he relies on me." Then came the emotional move. Her guilt turned into sudden rage, sharp and fast. She slammed her hand on the table and said, "You ruined my life over your ego." Her eyes flashed and she spat the words, "You're just a signal guy. You think everything is on or off." I kept my voice level. I said, "That's the point. A signal is either safe or it's not." I looked at her and added, "And you chose him when I asked for respect." Her face twisted like she wanted to say something cruel, but Ione lifted one hand and ended it. The consequences did not come from me yelling. They came from the paperwork Saskia tried to hide. That envelope from her nonprofit was an audit notice about travel and vendor conflicts, and Bram was connected to a grant proposal she pushed through as training support. When the board asked questions, Bram saved himself. He sent them an email saying Saskia handled everything, and he assumed it was approved. He pulled his name from the proposal and went quiet. He abandoned her the same way he tried to erase me. Saskia was placed on leave pending review. Her job depended on trust and clean records, and now she had neither. People in her office heard the story in fragments and filled in the rest. The shame did not need me. It ran on its own. Months passed. I moved my life forward like I was rebuilding a panel after a failure. I became lead signal technician on my route, the one who trains the new guys not to ignore warning signs. And I stopped explaining myself to people who wanted me smaller. Ione and I stayed in touch, careful at first. She did not flatter me. She asked real questions. She liked calm evenings and honest answers, and I liked the way that felt. A year later, it turned into something steady. One cold Friday, we ate dinner from a pierogi food truck in Kingston by the river. Steam rose from the paper tray, and the water looked like dark glass under the streetlights. I thought about how a signal check can save strangers from disaster, and I realized it can save your own life too. A week after that, a handwritten letter showed up in my mailbox, Saskia's handwriting. 3 pages. A lot of sorry words and a lot of excuses. I read it once, then I put it away without replying. Some people only learn when the door stops opening for them. I did not hate her. I just refused to be second place in my own home, and I refused to apologize for asking the kind of questions that protect you. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel.